Hello and welcome to Films and That. My name's Rob Turnbull.
And my name's Sam Hall.
And today we are looking at The Holy Mountain by Alejandro Jodorowsky. I'm so sorry. Avant-garde director Alejandro Jodorowsky directs an absurdist film following the spiritual journey of a Christ-like figure as he attempts to achieve immortality. This review contains spoilers. Alejandro Jodorowsky has famously on a number of occasions said that his films, he's trying to create the experience you get from taking LSD without taking LSD.
I understand that he has some experience in surrealism and working with surrealists and things like that. And he's with surrealism, you've got the background of a Jungian symbolism and things like that. That's quite prevalent. It's certainly prevalent in David Lynch's stuff, for example. So I saw there was elements of that, and from that becomes the kind of recreating the symbolism of dreams. So I think that's what LSD kind of achieves, you know? I think that's what it recreates.
It kind of,
I don't think it's transcendent or anything like that, you know?
It kind of allows you to access your subconscious, or makes that more visible than it normally is.
Yeah.
So it kind of connects things that wouldn't normally be connected and don't follow any logical path, I think.
But then it was pretty trendy of the time period that film came out to kind of claim that it had some sort of gave you some sort of spiritual guidance and elevated you or transcended you in some way, instead of just fucking you up.
Well, he's still alive, which amazes me.
Yeah, so
it amazes me that he's still alive.
It also amazes me he's not in prison as well.
Yeah.
See, and a little invisible sculpture comes, see, pornographic sculpture with that. And then I masturbate myself seeing the little figures.
You know, you've got to be honest, haven't you? And what on earth made you choose this film? And you realise that the stresses it's going to bring you in editing it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be pretty hot on the covering up people's naked bodies.
Or anything like that, you know. Oh my God. So it's not a great film for prudish people. Such as YouTube, for example, is pretty prudish.
Yeah, if you want to laugh, go on the IMDb. They have a section where it's for parents to give them more information about whether this film's suitable for children.
Oh, okay.
Go on that and read people's comments. Go, this is not suitable for children at all. It's really funny.
It's really not, or suitable for most adults, I don't think.
Someone had a problem with that. There was implied lesbian threesome. That was their issue with it.
There was so much stuff in it. There was so much in it that I don't even remember there being any lesbianism in it. Lesbianism?
Well, it's not even shown. It's just implied, like 3 women wake up in a bed. Like, that was your issue with the film, was it?
Of all the other things. There's, not a great film if you're big on, the treatment of animals and things like that. There's, a lot of animal cruelty in it. There's like a scene early on. It's kind of a comment on colonialism, isn't it? And they recreate the invasion of the Aztecs, but with lizards and toads.
Yeah.
And then for no reason at all, they blow up the toads. Millions and millions of Christ allegories. That pretty much everything up until he ascends the tower, which is like the beginning of the second act, I suppose. Everything until that point is mainly Christ allegories and religious symbolism.
Yeah. Yeah, so we should talk about the actual plot of the film, I guess,
okay.
and the structure of it, because I don't feel it has a 3-act structure, but I do feel it's split up into 3 chunks.
Yeah.
And the first chunk of the film is about a Christ-like figure, because he's not Christ, is he?
No, not morally. They put him on a cross pretty early on.
Yeah.
And then they make a mold out of him to recreate.
The Romans do.
The Romans, the Mexican Romans. Yeah, see, this isn't going to make any sense. We can't talk about the plot. It's not going to make any sense to talk about it. You can only see the film and understand it in that sense, you know.
Well, I think the thing to say is that every scene, there's some kind of symbolism or imagery in literally every shot. It's really packed in there. So we can get bogged down in talking about, oh, then it does this and then it does that.
We can't win either way. If we talk about the story, then it's not going to make any sense. If we talk about the symbolism, we'd be here for hours.
What's the baby?
Reading up on Jodorowsky's history, or it could be Jodorowsky, I'm not sure, that he was particularly upset with the way that Americans sort of ran the local mines in the region he grew up in. So from a very early age, he had this kind of anti-colonialist attitude.
That is the kind of meat of the film. It's anti-materialist, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
The opening sequence is very much the whole film just condensed into it.
Yeah, it's, what is it, two like Marilyn Monroe figures being sort of
derobed
and having their hair shaved off and things and just turned into figures, so that, that's pretty clear. Materialism sort of being just things, essentially, and sort of that, maybe that battle between spirituality and materialism, I suppose.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the second act, the thief ascends a tower and meets a character called the Alchemist, played by Jodorowsky himself.
Yeah.
His whole shtick is that he wants to take people that are horrible, kind of absolve them of their sins and kind of make them nice people, I guess.
Again, Jesus, give away all your wealth, all your things, literally burning their money. So we introduced to these additional characters, each of which is represented by an astrological sign.
Yeah, this is my favourite bit of the film. This takes up maybe the second
It did.
chunk.
It was losing me the first part, and then when we got to this bit, I'm like, okay, it's grabbed me now.
Because this bit doesn't have anything to do with the other bits of the film, really. It's its own kind of central...
It's like vignettes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would you call it like mini films?
Yeah, where it goes through each of these 7 horrible people and kind of goes into detail about who they are and why they're horrible.
Before making a decision, he consults with my mother's mummy. He puts his hand into her sex. If it's moist, it's yes. If it's dry, it's no.
It's not subtlety really with it. I think someone like Lynch is a bit more subtle, but his is a bit closer to Buñuel's, and that it's look, this represents this, So you are confused because there's so much surrealism. There's just so much information. It's like an overload of information. But you're not confused when they're talking about, and they've got those voiceovers of these characters talking about who they are and what they do, and talking about like using turning guns into religious symbols, for example.
Yeah, I think that was the moment when I thought we want to do this film on films and that.
We have psychedelic shotguns, grenade necklaces, rock and roll weapons.
Weapons for Buddhists, Jews and Christians.
Yeah.
I thought, that bit really kind of grabbed me in because it's kind of comedic, that bit, which kind of sets it out from the other 2 bookends of the film, which are a bit more serious.
It's comedic and sobering at the same time, because there is commentary here.
My favourite one is the toy manufacturer. She's really happy and she's dressed like a clown in front of the children.
Yeah.
And then she goes to a weapons factory where she makes toy guns for potential future conflicts. So they give the example of if they're going to war with Peru, they'll make children hate Peruvians for their entire life.
That's the specific example, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's that was very pathetic, I think, because if you read up on like the history of toys in the 80s, and it really started gearing toys towards like warfare and fighting and macho and masculinity and things like that. That was almost pathetic, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
in that sense. Yeah.
That was a very strong commentary that I really engaged with because that is true, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same with the another one of the characters is an architect, I think, and his idea is people don't need homes; they just need shelters.
He says, at least he gives a reason for it.
Massive high rises of just coffins that people just climb in, they sleep, and they eat at work. They don't need any kind of entertainment or anything, any space. They're just crammed in these coffins, and I feel that's how the world's going to go. because they have those. They have those in Japan. They have like hotels which are just tubes, and you climb in.
I think I do agree that there's these. There is aspects of it to real life, but I think when these filmmakers talk about these things and use dystopias and that's kind of aspects, they are exaggerating usually, because you say that's how things are going to go, but at the same time it's going to be slow, it's going to be subtle, and there's still going to be lots of people who still have spacious homes, you know.
Yeah, but
it's not going to be like everyone's going to go into coffins.
But that is satire. That's what it does. It is over the top, but it is making a point and saying something important, I think.
Yeah, it's all relevant commentary. This guy, Alejandro, he's incredibly gifted, but he is frustrating. I don't think anyone can sort of really watch one of his films and think, oh, I'm really relaxed, I just want to kick back and watch an Alejandro Jodorowsky film. You do get frustrated, especially with the endless controversial imagery, because I've got controversy fatigue at the moment, and that was my main problem with El Topo, which was just one dark, horrible thing after another. Yeah. And I get that enough of that watching the news, Yeah. So yeah, that was my main problem with El Topo, I think. So it wasn't that I thought it was badly made or anything. It was just constant death and suffering and torture and sexual deviancy or whatever. And this film I don't think is quite on that level. But
it's not so pretentious. You get real moments of levity. I think. Like there's one bit when someone's trying to have sex with a machine or something. But
With this electronic rod, he will rub its mechanical vagina.
Well, that's when the point when I really felt sorry for the production staff, and I thought, how on earth when you see like the list of items and props that you need going through the script, at what point how many heads exploded in the production team? Yeah. You think, where the hell are we going to get money for a giant sex machine that you give an orgasm and it opens up and then gives birth to a baby machine?
Yeah, you read the bit where it says on the wall there are thousands of testicles.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah, and they didn't look like prosthetics. That was what freaked me out.
Yeah.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
It is interesting. I was watching it and going, who gave him the money to make all this stuff?
Yeah, I was thinking that all the way through. And
I looked it up and it was John Lennon.
Well, all of it.
Pretty much.
Maybe they were the richest people in the world then.
Because
I can only imagine that the richest person in the world could afford to make that film.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that time.
Because it's so interesting, actually, because it wouldn't go through any kind of Hollywood system.
Nobody would touch it. No one. It would have to be a celebrity.
Yeah.
With a crazy love of film.
So that's what makes it so interesting. That's what makes it unique and exciting, I think. But it is a masterpiece just for the sets.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Yes, props, and all the people who had to spend the money on the props, remember, and purchasing department who had to buy the props. They had to suffer through all that. What do you do when you can't find something, We need this. It doesn't exist. So, you're just going to have to accept that, Alejandro.
Yeah, I want a 7-foot penis made of ice.
That is a thing. That is a thing that's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That representation of Marilyn Monroe at the beginning of the film, sort of stripping everything away, that then happens to these characters, where they strip themselves away, get rid of everything they have. They also shave their heads, don't they?
Yeah, and it becomes increasingly difficult to tell who's who at that point.
Oh, God, no, don't. It was enough. 7 people was difficult to remember. And remembering their faces, but at least they had their distinct look, like the chief of the police has his mohawk.
Yeah.
And then when they all shave their heads off and all wear the same clothes, it get very, very difficult, which becomes, I think, problematic for a scene that happens later on.
The end third of the film is them going to the Holy Mountain to try and become immortal. This is told to them by the Alchemist, says, if you go to the Holy Mountain, there are immortals there and we can fight them and become immortal ourselves. So they go on this journey and they each go through a kind of personal hell or some kind of vision, don't they? That is personal to them. But like you said, you can't tell who's who.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't make the connection between what their character was established as. And when they really establish their characters and who they are, you know. So you feel like that's significant because each of them goes through a different kind of mental torture. That if I could make a criticism of it, it's difficult to criticise a film like this, but I think that's a valid criticism.
My problem with this, it does go into incoherent rambling towards the end of the film. It kind of, once they go to Lotus Island and they go to that bar and then there's some weird shit happening, like a guy who can transfer himself through rock.
Which is, and that's when you talk about moments of levity, I think that was one of the funnier bits.
It's like, how long does it take you to go to the top? He's like, no, I can only move sideways.
Yeah, I can only go horizontally. He says, but horizontally, I am king.
I have conquered the holy mountain horizontally! Horizontally! I am a champion!
That was like a moment of temptation, wasn't it? To try and bring them away from what they're achieving is immortality. But then there's one guy who tries to give them LSD, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and tries to sell them LSD. Well, at that point I was going, well, is he saying that LSD is another kind of, in a way, another false hope?
Following on from when they go to the Holy Mountain, they go to the top and there are these immortals there around this table, and then our characters go to attack them and they realise they're dummies. Which brings us on to the final fuck you of the film, I think.
Yeah.
The Alchemist, he's sat around the table with all the other characters who have gone to seek immortality, and he says immortality isn't real. And looks into the camera and he says push back, and then it pulls back and you see all the camera crew and the lighting.
He says this isn't real, this is a film.
Yeah.
Goodbye to the holy mountain. Real life awaits us.
Fuck you, see you later. And then he walks off. I don't think he has a kind of idea of this means this and that links back to this and this is going to do that. I don't think he's like that.
That is true of most surrealists, I think. It doesn't all mean something. Some of it is just a means of trying to recreate dreams, you know. And sometimes your dreams or your subconscious gets it wrong. You know, sometimes it just puts two things together because for no reason at all.
Yeah, well, he's trying to create an experience again. He's not trying to create a mystery or a story, or even trying to say something a lot of the time. He's just trying to kind of poke you.
Because so many people really do just want a story and a plot they can follow.
They want
characters they can get invested in.
A lot of people just want to be told what's going on.
Yeah.
And they don't want to think.
Yeah.
You know, they just want to sit back and
I mean,
relax.
not patronised with exposition, but they want to be able to follow something, and they want to know what's happening, and they want answers. And you're not going to get that from Jodorowsky, so you can't approach it that way. And so if that's what you want, then you're not going to enjoy it. You know, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. So what did you think of Holy Mountain, Sam?
Okay, so when I saw El Topo, I really wasn't in the mood for it.
Did you see El Topo before this?
I did, yeah. I saw that first, and then after Holy Mountain, maybe my brain had sort of conditioned itself a bit more, and I did prefer Holy Mountain. I've heard people talk about El Topo being a better film, or considered a better film, but I just was not in the mood for it. So Holy Mountain felt like it wasn't that much of just obsessive, disturbing imagery, and I felt a bit more, it slowly. It did take me a little while though to get into it. Again, pretty much after the, when the ascending the tower and things like that.
That is when it kind of gets into its best bit, I think. I feel he's probably better at doing shorter, contained scenes of of surrealism rather than an entire film, because I did feel this did go into incoherent rambling of someone that was on drugs, which it kind of is.
Yeah.
So I would criticise it for that and not having a clearer point, I think.
Something coherent and cohesive is kind of the secret to any film, whether it's surrealist or not. Well, no, maybe not necessarily even coherent, but cohesive at least, you know. So the something makes sense, so you can get something out of it instead of it all being a barrage of confusing imagery, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree. But to be honest, I did really like this film, particularly the second third of the film. That really sold it for me.
We are experimenting with a drug to create delusions of grandeur.
Okay, that's it for this time on Films and That. Thanks for watching and subscribing. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
All right.
There was something I was going to say, but we talked so much already.
No, what are you going to say?
I was going to talk about this guy called Jose Marins, who is like he's really well thought of in the world of Brazilian cinema, and I've seen quite a few of his films now, and I do not know why, but he's sort of linked to that naked women just because you wanted naked women in your film, you know. He's one of those kind of people, I think.
Great.